This week on the podcast, I talk with returning guest and friend of the show, Jawad from Hit the Apex podcast. We talk about the new Formula E race at home, Marbula E. Yes, right, that's Marbula E. We also talk some sports cars, supercars esports, and general chat. Jawad knows his stuff, and I can't wait for you to listen. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to Regen E Racing Podcast. I am your host, Deano, and joining me this week, Chris is away, so we have Jawad from Hit the Apex Podcast. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing there, Deano?
I'm very well, and it's good to have both of us on sort of similar time zones this morning as well.
Yeah, I mean, we negotiated this with Chris, obviously, and unfortunately he's pulled out at the last minute, so all the more coffee for us, I think, this morning.
Yes, yep, I've already had one, and I think I'll probably have to get on the decaf because all of this staying at home, I'm consuming a lot more coffee.
Yeah, I mean, you were just saying before about your current lockdown laws and everything, and you might even have the chance to go out and get a coffee soon.
I'm actually really excited about that. You can probably hear it in my voice right now, but I mean, it's been tough, you know, us coffee addicts.
Because you can't make good coffee, is that what you're saying, or?
Well, I mean, I've got some beans at the moment from Uganda, which is quite cool. A place called Gorilla Summit, and Plunger. So yeah, Plunger's sort of the go-to, but yeah, there's not much like an espresso.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I haven't tried the Plunger method yet. I bought myself an espresso machine a couple of years ago, the grinder as well, and it's been doing the job, I guess. So makes a good latte. Had to experiment a little bit with beans, but I think I've found the right one now. So
it sounds like you got a pretty sweet setup there.
I try. In these times when you've got all the time in the world, you got to just fill it.
Yep. Amen. Alrighty. Media of the week. We're still going to do media of the week, so you're not getting away. What have you got for us, Jawad?
Well, yeah, like last time, I really look forward to talking about media of the week. So, what have we got this week? Well, I'm sure there was a lot of sports nuts all over the world who, with the lack of sport, are going a bit crazy, but ESPN has done us a justice and released this documentary series that they've been working on for a very long time, called The Last Dance. It's a series that focuses on the 1990s Chicago Bulls dynasty. Of course, one of the greatest sporting teams of all time. Most people will regard Michael Jordan, the greatest basketballer of all time. Looks at his rise and fall there at the Bulls, of course. And then, of course, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, his wingman, coach Phil Jackson, and of course the general management as well in that setup. And I think the narrative mainly focuses around the 97-98 NBA season, which was dubbed The Last Dance by their coach because the management wanted to split them apart at the end of that season because they felt that they were getting too old and they have to rebuild like most of those ruthless sporting organisations do. So at the moment on Netflix, they're releasing them, I think, 2 episodes a week. So we've had the first 2 come out and quite enjoyable, just even as a sports fan, looking at the inner workings of this team that dominated for so long, but also all the acrimony and all the negative stuff that was behind the scenes too. So they had unprecedented access to footage back in 97, 98, so a lot of fly on the wall kind of stuff, a lot of behind the scenes. You kind of see a different side to Michael Jordan as well, basically just asserting himself over everyone. He's the greatest, so why hide that? And a few people have said or criticised that it's kind of shown a different side to Michael Jordan as well, but at the same time, any great sportsman or athlete, sportswoman, they have that side to them as well, which, that's their way of getting things done. So it's been really good so far, and I can't wait for episode 3 next week.
Wow, that sounds incredible. That sounds really awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of the elite sportsmen, you sort of have to be selfish to get to the top. So yeah, that's not really surprising when you're at work. You're at work and doing whatever to win. Basically, we only have to look at Max Verstappen. Yeah, he's got that mindset, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's been sort of cut in that mold that people like Ayrton Senna and all that, Michael Schumacher, they've talked about for years and years. God, even though he's only 23, it feels like he's been around for decades as Verstappen. So,
okay, my media of the week is a mobile game. It's called Tiny Tomb Dungeon Explorer, and it's from Mindsense Games. Sort of a voxel artwork roguelike. You're going around little dungeons, finding fruit and other things for this big entity that I think he normally eats people, but he's partial to a piece of fruit, and so you've got to do that, or else you get eaten yourself. The first sort of dungeon is very easy. The second one is very hard. So I think they need to tone down the difficulty a bit, because I'm not rubbish at games and I'm struggling a bit.
I've never been one to try the mobile games, actually, so you seem to be a bit of an expert, and if you're saying it's difficult, then that's saying something. Yeah. I mean, I'm normally one to play sort of tower defense games. Yep.
So, yeah, Kingdom Rush, those sort of ones, but this one's something a little bit different. I'll link it in the show notes. Have a look. It's really fun, pretty quirky. But worth a play. Yeah, it's free, so that's another plus.
There you go. I was going to ask as well, actually, you mentioned last week you were playing Far Cry 3. I think it's an absolute classic as well. How's that going?
It's going okay. I haven't had a lot of time to play it recently. It's been a bit of a week, but going well. I'm really enjoying it, actually. It's really... it's a bit of a breath of fresh air. So, I mean, I enjoy things like Rage and other shooters, but this one, there's just something about the cars and the world that makes it a bit more real, a bit more like you're actually there. Obviously, you're the way you run and things are quite funny, but it sort of takes you out of the experience. But I just really love the story, and a lot of games don't really have that.
No, and yeah, the open world aspect is pretty cool as well. It's hard. I think it was 2009 that one came out. It's been a decade easily, so
yeah, it's pretty good for 2009.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the Blood Dragon expansion as well, which was more of a cyberpunk kind of world, totally different to where the game is set normally. But yeah, so that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I'm normally playing something a bit less intense, but yeah, it's good for a change. I've started up Dead Island as well, and that is clunky. That is clunky compared to Far Cry 3. So
that's what you find, I guess, when you go back and revisit a few of those older games. You'll find that. Yeah,
I mean, it's all that my PC will handle, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my PC probably was a beast back then, but now it's just can't handle much.
I don't even bother with a PC anymore, to be honest. So there's quite everyone's jumping on iRacing at the moment with all the esports and everything, but I don't think I could even handle it on basic graphics. So that's how good it is. Yeah,
for the nerds out there, I've only got a GT 1030 so it's not doing much for me.
I've just got a HP laptop now, so I used to have an Alienware which was pretty good, and it was spec'd and everything, and it just kind of died on me. Too many games, I think, back in the school days, but yeah, not these days. I'll just stick with the Xbox and I'll be happy.
Yep. I used to smash the World of Warcraft, but no more. So, yeah.
The only time I bring up World of Warcraft now is when I talk about my losses financially.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, it was frustrating, but there was a bit of fun that was had with it, at least.
Right. Marbula E. So, on the podcast, we have talked about Marbula 1, Marbula E, which is a bit of a Envision Virgin Racing and Formula E collaboration with Yellow's Marbles. So instead of them being the marble teams, they are official Formula E team marbles, using the official Formula E graphics and commentary. Jack Nicholls on the commentary. I mean, his list of what he's done now must be just horrendous. Like, he's commentating on everything. I can't find commentary without him, apart from supercars, which we'll get into later. But yeah, I mean, if he goes for a job interview, here, look what I've done. Amazing.
You've properly made it when you're commentating on marbles racing. I did actually see the clip of him commentating over Marbula E, and I'm just like, this guy could commentate anything, really. He is, I think, one of the guys you're going to be looking at in the future as taking over, whether it's F1 or whatever, like being a lead, like in a position David Croft is, for example, or Neil Crompton or whatever in the supercars. So, no, I'm a big fan of Jack Nicholls, and this Marbula E thing, it's actually a credit to the success of Marbula 1. That started... and some of us kind of scratched our heads, others were fascinated, but I think in general it's kind of a credit to the racing world at the moment, things that they're trying to do to keep everyone entertained, and it's really creative.
It is, yeah. I think we're good at finding ways of entertaining ourselves, aren't we? When the main and the thing we're there for isn't available to us. But I mean, it's just a bit of fun, really. And
totally,
I enjoyed it. It's just a bit of fun. But there are podcasts out there, and we linked a couple last episode, that actually take it seriously, where the marbles sort of, they have a mind of their own, and they are personified almost. It's quite fun.
Which, when you did mention that last week, I was kind of surprised, but not surprised. But, it's good that people are getting on board with it out there. And, as you say, I think having fun is probably the main thing.
It is. So go and check that out if you haven't. I will link that in the show notes for you to go and check out. And, just enjoy Jack Nicholls' commentary. It's really fun. Yeah, the attack zone is a ramp, attack mode, so a little bit of a change. The marbles, I think it would be a bit difficult for them to be able to go through attack mode a certain number of times, but they have a ramp to sort of make up for that. And yeah, it's not good if you want to actually learn about Formula E, so yeah, just cut that. It's just a cool ramp.
Well, they got the old races you can watch on YouTube, so if you want to learn about Formula E, just go watch that and leave the marbles for a bit of fun.
Exactly. So yeah, you've got plenty of time to catch up on Formula E, and last season was an absolute cracker, so yeah, go and watch that.
Yep.
Okay, so on Reddit, there is a percentage of points versus points on offer per season graph, which is really cool. It sort of goes into the rise and fall of Formula E teams, and just how they're doing, how they're tracking. Obviously, some of them sort of joined halfway through mid-season 3 with Jaguar, but they are on the up, and you can sort of see the decline of the likes of Dams, which is now Nissan. Very, very cool. I'll link this also. It puts into perspective the likes of Venturi, where they are slowly getting better, and the work that's gone into their program. I mean, there's some that are yo-yoing all over the place. I mean, Techeetah,
made a big leap up after 15, 16.
Massive, yeah, and then down a little bit, even though Jean-Eric Verne winning. Well, the team won last year as well, so they're pretty happy. But massive swings for that team. So I'll link that. Have a look. It's really, really cool.
I love how Truly is just in its own little zone, like far removed from everyone. I was expecting to see Neo there, but yeah, Neo on the other side, like, kind of didn't get a good start and then just right at the bottom.
Yeah, so Truly only was in for like one season, so that's why. Yeah.
And Mercedes, by the looks of it, have had a sharp increase from the last season when they were HWA, so they've had some good impact straight away, which is good to see.
Yes, I mean, you can sort of see as well in this graph the Andretti BMW sort of rise as well, which is really cool to see. So, it's a nice way to visualize it quickly.
They've been very strong the last few races. I mean, we forget that we actually had some Formula E racing earlier this year anyway, and as promised, I did get on board and watch them closely. So I was really getting into it before all this happened and everything. So
yes, yep, it's been a long time. I mean, it's been longer for Formula One, but we won't get into that. There was some racing, virtual racing. The pre-season race of the ABB Formula E Race at Home Challenge in support of UNICEF, which is great that they sponsoring UNICEF to help them with that. I think I talked about it last episode, that it's to sort of help them to learn and healthcare and bits and pieces to sort of lessen the effects of coronavirus and help save lives as well as keep them learning and all those essential things that people need. You know, we sort of take it for granted here in Australia and New Zealand, but UNICEF do great work worldwide, and World Vision, Tier Fund, UNICEF. You know, we need these organisations.
Yeah, for sure, and in these times especially. So it's really good to see the stay-at-home challenge get on board with UNICEF and get some much-needed funds and stuff donated and everything. And it's good that Formula E are getting behind with UNICEF because, UNICEF, I think, with the FIA as well, have a partnership, I think. I mean, Jean Todd's all about it.
So the competition is a 9-week esports competition, 2 separate grids running in parallel, a sim racer challenge grid section and Formula E drivers, which is the drivers grid. So they're completely separate in this one. I know a lot of series sort of combine them in a final, but these are completely separate. And the winner of the challenge series will get real lifetime in a Formula E car on a race weekend when we get back going. So that's kind of a prize that a lot of the e-racers, the sim racers, will be eyeing up intently. And I don't know what the driver's grid prize is. I'm guessing it's just a nice big trophy to put in the cabinet and some money. But so a race royale format. Interesting. This sort of takes me back to sort of Need for Speed Underground, where you can't be the last car on the lap. So it's an elimination until the top 10, and then it is a 1-lap sprint to the end. Very, very cool way to do it, and something a little bit different, Jawad.
Yeah, it's not something that as you would see traditionally, and as you say, Need for Speed Underground, it's kind of like that. So it kind of puts more emphasis, I think, on just making sure you're at the front and don't get caught up in nasty battles at the back of the grid or whatever. You just got to be ahead. But is it actually, in my mind, it kind of would spawn a bit of chaos. So has it actually caused any chaos, like 3 drivers trying to get around one corner together because they don't want to be last? And is it
we'll get onto
like
that. Yeah.
This is exciting.
Yep. Okay. So qualifying, Graham Carroll on pole. I'd never heard of him before, but he was on pole for the esports section, and apparently he's a Red Bull back driver. Graham is no stranger to motorsport. In 2015, the British driver won the coveted Walter Hayes. Graham is no stranger. So that trophy at Silverstone in the Formula Ford series. Since making the switch to esports, he's been involved in 3 different forms of sim racing, including the 2018 F1 esports alongside Joni Tomola, finishing in 6th overall. So this guy is no slouch. He's also competed in last year's Porsche Esports Super Cup for the Bulls. He was very good, very quick, and it's not really a surprise. And then, the sim race was a little bit cleaner and really, really cool, which Graham Carroll won. Sort of checked out basically, and there was quite a bit going on behind, so it was a bit easy in the end.
Well, that's good, and showing his prowess and everything. So do they at all get to compete with the real drivers at all, or is it just kept separate completely?
I think it's completely separate, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. But so the actual drivers, absolute carnage. I mean, there was people going out everywhere, and a couple of people going into the wall. So the damage was 25% of normal, so it had been scaled back. So a lot of rubbing is racing encouraged. I'm not sure it was a good thing, but a lot of them sort of had a crash. You thought, that's race ending, but no, carrying on as they were. Probably good for the spectacle, but hopefully they tone it back, considering this one was just a sort of a warm-up race.
It just shows you if you give racing drivers an inch, they'll take a mile, and just sounds like proper dodgem cars stuff. Because normally Formula E cars, they're so fragile, I'm sure that, even just the slightest contact would see your wings fall off or something like that. So I think they've been given the all clear to go a bit more hardcore. And this is what you get. Yeah,
exactly. It is. So yes, Maximilian Günther absolutely dominated the test race, which probably not a surprise. Jack Nicholls actually went through who he thought would be the contenders, and it was Maximilian Günther and Stoffel Vandoorne. Stoffel been doing a lot of sim racing recently, and Maximilian Günther was set up at the BMW facility, and then he got his own stuff. Really, really good. Charging into the first turn, Jean-Eric Vergne dived up the inside of Andre Lotterer to take 3rd, but Andre fighting back. That was a good bit of a scrap as well. So, I mean, the first lap gave way to plenty of action. I am reading this off a press release now on the Formula E website. A huge pile-up, drivers spinning out of control, Audi Sports. Lucas Di Grassi was a big name to be claimed in all of the madness first lap. More carnage. The race settled slightly with Günther controlling the lead from Stoffel Vandoorne and Vergne. Nick Cassidy rounding out the top 5, and he was substituting for Sam Bird, which I have to say Nick Cassidy really should be getting some sort of drive or being looked at for Formula E, because he is just, he's great at whatever he puts his hand to. It's just, do you know much about him, Chris? About him, Jawad? Sorry.
That's okay. And I've kind of, the name has popped up quite a bit over the last few years in particular, and looking at open wheel prospects out in New Zealand, of course, I feel like he's an underrated name at that. Didn't he do that young driver test for Formula E? Was it in Diriyah or in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a part of that. So not sure how
Yes.
he went there, but yeah, he's a guy who, over in Super Formula in Japan has plied his trade, and of course that's not a category for slouches. I'm sure that everyone knows that. See some big names go and compete over there. So yeah, it's kind of a weird one how he slipped under the radar for Formula One, because I think he would have totally killed it if he got a plum drive there. But, you never say never, and if Formula E can get their hands on him, I'm sure it's going to be good for him and good for them as well.
Exactly. So yes, there was a lot of pushing past and a bit of drama. So there were a couple of names that weren't in there. Pascal Wehrlein was not racing, and so Sam de Jong, who I think is the actual reserve driver for Mahindra, was in, and Jan Mardenborough, I think he was in for...
Be Nissan,
he's
I'm sure.
one of Nissan, yeah. He's one of the Nissan guys. I think it was for Buemi. But coming up to the final lap, Van Dorn attempted to close the gap to Gunther, but Gunther just looked too good, won comfortably, and it was 7/10, and Andre Lotterer rounding out the podium in third, which a great drive from Lotterer. I have to say that he was probably my driver of the day, because you don't necessarily sort of think Lotterer, sim racing, but yeah, really strong showing, and it looks, it's looking good for him for the season.
Well, I think he might be one of the guys who are appreciating the fact that there's less damage, because he's had some pretty good grid positions in the actual races this season, but there's always like a first corner incident that's involving Andre Lotterer, which has been really painful to see, I've got to admit. So I think, he'll be pretty happy about having that less damage, so he can actually get past the first corner and not be missing a front wing or be back in 20th position.
Yeah, I think back to Sam Bird hitting him when he was in front. Lotterer, great defender. I can't remember what race it was last year, but he should have had that win. He masterful defending. I think it might have been Byrne, potentially. But yeah, he's the best. He is the best driver not to win a race. You really have to. And
it's kind of weird that he hasn't actually won a race yet in Formula E. So, I mean, I forgot that until you just mentioned it as well. So it's like, whoa, this guy who's had all this success, I can wax. I'm pretty sure last time as well when I was on the show I was waxing lyrical about Andre Lotterer. So
we were.
Yeah, kind of hard not to. But he'll be happy to at least get that win under his belt and kind of take confidence from there.
Absolutely. So again, those will be in the show notes. So Maximilian Günther, Stoffel Van Dorn and Andre Lotterer, your top three out of that race. So while we're on esports, Jawad, and I'm sure you've been looking forward to talking about the supercars esports, I've been watching, I've watched the first one, and I've just got to say the production value is incredible. It is just, and with iRacing, it looks similar to what you'd actually be watching. You'd have to look twice. Yeah,
it almost, when you watch it, it's kind of become my new Wednesday night tradition now. I wouldn't say this normally about, motorsports being on midweek, but yeah, it's on at the prime time, 7 p.m. here. If you've come home from work or if you've had dinner, it's kind of like, oh yeah, let's jump around the TV and watch a bit of the supercars. And, as you say, the production quality is really high. They've got the crew that normally does the broadcast for Fox Sports here, and that I think gets broadcast all over the world as well, whichever countries can access it. They've got the commentators as well with Neil Crompton and Matt White who do the regular broadcast as well. So just all these little things, and also the graphics that they use as well for the timing and everything and positions. It kind of feels like you're watching the real thing. And then, as you say, with iRacing as well, it's got really good graphics, and then the camera angles that they use for the replay and everything is almost like the real camera angles. So we were watching Bathurst yesterday, the third round, and it had the normal intensity and drama of a race at Bathurst, I think, and that just is a combination of a good track, good drivers, and just the way that they all packaged it together for viewing. So even though it's not October and it's not heading into summer and everyone's got the barbecues out and the beers for Bathurst, it did feel like it was a Bathurst race with the supercars. So no, it's been really good so far, and I'm glad, as I said before, that motorsport's coming up with creative ways and good ways to keep everyone entertained. I think the Supercars E Series is probably doing it better than anyone else in the world at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I was just going to chip in and say, being winter over here or heading into winter, you can't really have your barbecues and beers. It's a bit chilly outside, probably less so in Australia. But good that you can still have Bathurst on the TV.
Exactly. So, and I think that's just a credit to Bathurst as well as a place. I think it's one of the best. I haven't been to too many racetracks, but it is definitely my favourite place in the world to go to see racing.
I've got to ask, is Scott McLaughlin good at everything he tries his hand at? I've been reading a little bit, and apparently he won a IndyCar race, E-race as well, and he's just... the first race he dominated. So is this just I haven't been following his career very closely, but he seems like he's just on top of everything he tries his hand at.
Yeah, he won one of the E-Series races earlier, I think it was last month now, or early this month or something. So yeah, Scott McLaughlin, who he's made his name in supercars, was tipped to go, or he was confirmed to go over this year and make his debut in IndyCar at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, which is the road course race that is held before the Indy 500. So unfortunately, he wasn't going to be able to do the Indy 500, but Penske, his team boss, was going to put him on to do the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, and he was fast in the testing that they had pre-season. So they did a couple of tests and he was like top 3 or something already. So, and this is a guy who's always had a focus on tin top racing, so like touring cars and anything with a closed cockpit. So there was a few people that were surprised when last year it was kind of made public that he was actually going to be going over to America with Penske to do IndyCar, because everyone thought he would be doing NASCAR. So I was kind of not surprised. I'm like, this guy could be good at anything he does. Like, I've been a fan of McLaughlin since he made his main series debut in 2013. The first race that he officially won was there at Pukekohe. And he became the youngest winner in supercars, and then after that he had a few more years at the team he was at there, Gary Rogers Motorsport. The year after, they made a switch to the Volvo S60 chassis, which was largely successful, but unfortunately there was no championship or anything that came out of it for Scott. But you could see that he was quick and he was dragging machinery that was good, but not as fine-tuned as you kind of need it to be in supercars to be able to win. It's just the margins are so fine, and you've got this very small window to be able to be the quickest. So yeah, the move to DGR Team Penske buying into Dick Johnson Racing, a team that's been in Australia for, it's one of the lifebloods of the sport. So Scott moving to that team in 2017 was always going to bring success and open pathways for him as well internationally, but it was about getting that success. So there was a bit of heartbreak in 2017. He lost the championship at the final race, crashing with Craig Lowndes. He was in an unlosable position and then kind of just lost it. But then 18 and 19, he really dominated, and 2 championships now under his belt. Bathurst 1000 win, of course, as well last year, controversially, but it just seems whatever he does, he's kind of in that golden patch at the moment, and he's tried IndyCar for real. Now he's done the esports as well, and he's been really good at that. So if he decides to go down the open wheel route, I mean, where does the possibilities end?
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of series that would love him. So,
and someone for you to get behind as well, potentially, if you were to get into IndyCar.
Yeah, we've obviously got Scott Dixon, but it'd be good to have someone else that's recognisable over there. It's hard to try and get behind Will Power or any of those sort of guys.
Yeah, I didn't really watch a proper full season of IndyCar until I think I watched the last few races last year, and Indy 500, of course, I got behind. But then this year I was like, I'm watching Formula E now, so why not give IndyCar a go? But unfortunately, we didn't get that far ahead. But when it does restart, I think I'll be keen to watch a few more races. It's a bit difficult with the time difference as well, with all the races being in North America predominantly, so a lot of them will be just watched on demand, as I did with the first few Formula E races.
Yes, not kind to our part of the world, but that's all right. That's what YouTube catch-up's for. YouTube
catch-up or whatever, if you record them, still pull out the VHS player and tape them if that's your only means of doing it.
Tape them. Actually, if someone has a tape, I would be really happy. Yeah. Anyway, send me a photo of your Formula E tapes. Okay. So your podcast, Jawad, Hit the Apex. What are you talking about at the moment? Are you doing anything special on there?
I don't know if you would consider it special or anything, but given we don't really have much in the way of live racing to talk about, which is kind of our thing with both our podcasts, kind of been looking back at some older content. So I talked last week about something I was going to do called Racing Revisitations, which is just a series that I'm writing about for the website The Raw. And this week I did the 2010 F1 season, of course, so that's now a decade ago. It was the 60th championship season. God, it doesn't feel like that long ago, but it is. And just basically, looking back at that season and how the championship panned out as well, because it was a lot of people say one of the best championships we've had in recent years. 4 drivers went into the final race with a shot at the championship, and it was kind of the unexpected result. We all had our eyes on Fernando Alonso or Mark Webber to win that one, and then they get themselves stuck behind a Renault and Sebastian Vettel comes out and wins the championship, and that was the beginning of his little run with Red Bull as well. So it was kind of a fascinating season that, each race something different happened. It was like, okay, so he's won a couple of races, he's on top of the championship. Oh no, he's had a retirement. And then there's someone else who comes in, and it kind of just changed throughout the season, and it had a good ebb and flow and just really kept everyone on their toes. So it was kind of good going back this week and watching some of those races from 2010, reading about it again, and just trying to formulate a basis to do this piece on. I think I did almost over 3,500 words and kind of split it into a couple of parts to publish. So that's something, I'm going to be talking about on this week's show, just offering a bit more depth and some thoughts as well about it. But also, I've started going back and editing and restoring some old photos that I have as well. So prior to getting the DSLR that I did a few years ago, I actually focused a lot more on film rather than photos. But then I kind of, with my film camera, took a few stills and stuff like that, and thought, oh yeah, this doesn't look too bad. Maybe I should get into the photography stuff as well. So a lot of those old photos that I had with a film camera, I kind of just left to one side and really didn't do much with them. But now I'm kind of going back and looking through them. I'm like, oh yeah, some of these are really good, but I can touch them up a little bit. So I've been touching them up and putting them up on Instagram and everything. And I might even, I said it last week, I'm like, oh, maybe I can kind of tell the story behind that photo or tell the story behind that race. I mean, it's kind of hard in podcasts because I can't show you the photo physically, but I'll do my best to describe it and say, oh, so this is from Bathurst 2015, which, was the last chunk of photos that I went through and edited. So, and yeah, just time to discuss other media as well. We talk mostly about racing and sports and motorsport, but, we all like music, we all like movies, stuff like that. So offering a bit of some thoughts on that too.
Cool. That sounds exciting. We will link the Instagram so you can check that out as well. And I'll be checking that out for sure. So, Jawad, what are your social media links for the people to check out?
Yeah, so Twitter, of course, at Hit the Apex Media, and then, as we said, Instagram too, which is just my personal one, at Dr46th, and, of course, check out the motorsport section on theraw.com.au as well. That's where you're going to find all my published articles and everything, and it's kind of not as busy as you would like it at the moment, but hopefully with this revisitation series I'm doing, I can get a few more articles up, and having a bit more time on my hands too, I could probably do one a week.
Nice. Thank you very much. Finally, thank you to Huzu Graphics on Twitter for doing the artwork when we do have races. His link is in the show notes, and also his work can be seen on our website, regenracingpodcast.com. We're on Twitter at Regen Racing and Instagram at Regen E Racing Pod. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts, and thank you for continuing to do so. We appreciate it that you take the time, considering there's not much Formula E or E racing. We've had to do a different sort of e-racing talk for the last wee while, so thank you for sticking with us. If you would like to donate to the show, it'll go towards artwork and the cost of keeping the website up and running, so you can do that. We have a red circle link. And Jawad, thank you very much.
Pleasure as always, Dino.
Yeah, no, I've been looking forward to this since we sort of arranged it last week, and having Josh on as well, from who does some work for the Raw. I sort of thought about you, and I thought, yeah, we need to get you back on.
No, it's been great, and hopefully we can do this a lot sooner again this time if you've got more content you want to discuss.
Absolutely, yep. I'm sure Chris will get back on the next one, and we can sort of have a chat on the season of the Formula E Race at Home series and a few other bits and pieces that are going on with supercars. I'm sure that'll be enjoyable.
It will be. So yeah, thank you again, Dino, and cheers.
Cool. Have a good one, mate. Thank you. Yeah, I mean we've obviously got the Scott. What's his last name?
Dixon.